Oh my goodness, I'm so sad that I've discovered these Reddit threads. Like, what are the advices that people are giving each other? Like, they're all conflicting. I'm so confused. And welcome back to another episode of the Pop Out. Today we're talking about extracurricular activities and what kind of extracurricular activity you should do. I didn't realize because I never really bothered to look around, but I didn't realize that there were so many people who had opinions on what to do and what not to do, and giving all this advice. We need to clear some of this stuff up because I think there's nuance here, and I think people are not being careful about the kind of advice they're giving, which is unfortunate. So let's talk a little bit about extracurricular activities, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently than just going straight into what you should be doing. I think from what I've been seeing, I'm guessing that the problem is that people are not focusing on the right thing. They're focusing on the nitty-gritty of should you follow your interests and passions? Should you do passion projects? Should you be proactive? How important are leadership positions and so on? I think people are focused on the wrong thing. I think we need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And to do that, I want to begin by saying a few things about what colleges are generally looking for. Now, again, with anything I say here, what combination of these things colleges want, how much a particular college values one of these factors, it depends. It depends on the college. It depends on what they decide is the thing that they are going to pay most attention to. But generally, most colleges, at least the most competitive ones, are looking for some combination of the following. One, they're looking for students who have a good sense of who they are. What I mean by this is they're looking for students who know what drives them, know what interests them, what purpose their life has, right? Like what makes their life purposeful? Like what is it that they're ultimately going for in accomplishing, a good life, right? They also have a good sense of what they're actually good at, as well as areas of weaknesses, right? Things where they might need assistance from others. Um, Basically, they just want a student who has a good idea of the kind of person that they are, right? An honest assessment of themselves, one that is not sugarcoating things, one that is not like over exaggerating their strengths, none of this stuff, but they have a good sense of who they are. They have a good sense of what they're about. But that requires a deeper kind of reflection, right? This ability to kind of reflect on their own life and where they would like their life to go. Okay. What else is a college looking for? Number two, I would say they're also looking for somebody who does not merely think or feel, right? They're not just in their head or in their feelings about whatever they care about, but they actually act on it. They do something about it. They don't, they're doing something tangible, right? Physically, putting it to action, right? So it's not enough to just simply care about the endangered species in your local neighborhood. The question is, are you doing something about it? Because if you're just sitting back and watching others do stuff, or you're just talking about it, but you're not about being about it, like you're not acting on it, that's going to raise a lot of red flags. What colleges are looking for is somebody who not just talks a big talk, but actually walks the walk. Like, right, is this truly what you're about? And the way to prove it is by doing stuff, right? Third, college is looking for someone who acts purposefully, right? What I mean by that is, asking yourself, right, is this the right thing to do? Is it the right way to do it? Is this the way to actually make an impact? How do I know? Am I reflecting on the way I'm doing what I'm doing or what goals I'm trying to accomplish? Am I reflecting on how to improve in accomplishing the goals I'm trying to accomplish, right? So are you the kind of person who is doing this sort of not just doing stuff, right, mindlessly, but doing it much more thoughtfully, doing it with a sense of purpose, a sense of awareness of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and how it is that you're going about doing the things that you're doing, right? Whatever the activity might be. Okay. Fourth, I think colleges are also looking for someone who learns from their experience, right? Can you demonstrate this kind of growth, right? Am I learning the right lessons? For instance, if there was a conflict with a, fellow volunteer, right? How did I resolve it? What did I do terribly, right? What can I know? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn that I need to work on moving forward? Is there something that I would do differently going forward? How can I use this experience and apply it to other areas of my life, right? Like if you experience something in one club, right? Like the question is, am I taking that lesson and actually applying it to my life, or am I just, again, just experiencing things mindlessly without really giving much thought as to what my experience has been and what I have gained from it and have grown from it? Okay. Um, Additionally, colleges are looking for, as number five, colleges are looking for someone who cares for others, right? And are not just about themselves. Because let's be honest, who wants to be with a selfish prick, right? Now, this doesn't necessarily need to mean that you have some big global picture and you want to create world peace or anything like that. It just means that you are not just about yourself. You're not a self-interested and a self-absorbed, petty kind of person. You actually have some degree of care and concern for the people around you. It could be more immediate circles like your local community. It could be family. It could be friends. It could be the world at large, right? But you just want to show in some ways, right, that you're not somebody who is only thinking about themselves and whether or not you yourself succeed in whatever way that you consider to be success. Okay. Number six. So colleges also look for someone who can see the bigger picture, right? Oftentimes, students tend to be absorbed in their own little world. This is not to be unexpected. A lot of students only have a limited set of experiences, and often it's limited to, their family, their community. Some who are lucky enough to have the money and the time may have been able to experience a lot more, going to different places around the world and seeing how things operate differently. But by bigger picture, it doesn't have to be right again globally. But the idea is that you are thinking beyond your immediate circle, immediate thing that you're exposed to. Right. In other words, you're showing the ability to, how do you say this? Engage with the larger world and see yourself as part of a larger world, right? Not just simply as your world is the only thing that matters, right? Okay, and finally, colleges, as you might think anywhere else, right? Like a job or anywhere else where people need to rely on you or want to invest in you to make sure you get to where you claim you want to go. The question then becomes, are you committed, right? So finally, colleges are going to be looking for somebody who is dedicated, right? The questions here to ask are questions like, am I giving this activity all that I can give, or am I half-assing it? Am I committed through the whole process, or do I give up at some point, right? Do I just throw the towel in when it becomes difficult? Or am I somebody who others can rely on, others can lean on, and know that I am a mainstay? I'm not just, wishy-washy. I don't say that I'm going to do one thing, but, never end up doing it, right? So are you a reliable, are you a committed person, right? Okay, so these are so I'm pointing this out because this is kind of like the bigger picture that we need to understand, right? Again, the application on the whole is trying to demonstrate all these things, and extracurriculars are just one aspect of it. Extracurriculars are just, again, pieces to a bigger picture to kind of paint the kind of person that you are, right? So if you're thinking about like what kind of extracurriculars activities I should do, and if you're seeing this bigger picture of the kind of person that they're looking for, then the way to approach extracurricular activities would be to, you know, figure out how can I not only demonstrate that I'm this kind of person, but do so genuinely. I mean, we talked about this, right? That, in these personal statements, one of the things I am able to detect right away is when there's kind of like a false sense of self, right? When somebody's has a mask on and is trying to pretend to be somebody that they're not, right? So at some point, you're going to have to face the reality that if you're not this kind of person, then it might be the thing to start with. It might be the first place to start, figure out what to work on. Because if you're not, for instance, committed, if you're not reliable, you're wishy washy, that's going to be an issue. I mean, that's not going to be an issue just for college. That's going to be an issue for the rest of your life in relationships, at jobs, right? If people can't rely on you, if you are constantly skipping out on stuff, um, that's going to be an issue. If you're somebody who is only thinking about themselves, that's going to be a problem, not just for college, but long after, right? If you're somebody who doesn't learn from your experience, you're not going to be growing, you're not going to be maturing. That's going to be a problem again for the rest of your life, right? These are not issues that are just simply for college application, in other words, right? These are all just general character traits that you might think anybody in society might really want from somebody they have to engage with, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in a relationship, right? It's just good to have these qualities, period. Right. This is, I think, these kind of things that I just listed out as things that colleges are looking for. This is basically like looking for somebody who is moving in the direction of being a mature person, like somebody that is mature, somebody who is good, at least in some loose sense, right? Somebody that you would enjoy spending time with, somebody you would want to develop a relationship with, somebody that you can trust, right? Like these are the kinds of things that colleges are often looking for. So colleges are not necessarily looking for anything special in that sense, right? Like I think a lot of the advices I've seen online have been advice on, you know, you should do X, Y, and Z to show that you have such these like leadership skills and you're like amazing and doing this or that, or you're better than everyone else or something or another. Like it's like some sort of demonstrate that you can handle competition and all this, right? It's like, look, no, 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 no. They want to see a real person. They want to see a real person, and they want to see a real person that it's clear that this is what you're really about, right? And the extracurriculars are merely there to reflect a real person there. So you could try to tailor your extracurriculars all you want. I'm going to tell you right now, right, that it's not going to look very good if you try to tailor it in a specific way, because at the end of the day, what you're doing as you're tailoring your extracurriculars, you're looking like the kind of person who keeps their mask on, right? That's what you're doing. That's what tailoring a set of extracurricular activities would look like. Okay. It would be you being calculating and trying to figure out how to present yourself. And if you're calculating in how to present yourself, you're not being genuine. You're not being authentic. Okay. So look, I'm going to give you a different approach to thinking about what kind of activities you should do. I personally recommend, so if you are already in like, 10th, 11th grade in high school, like, oh, this might be a little bit late, but, get started at some point is better than nothing, right? But ideally, you would be doing this sort of reflection that I'm going to suggest. You should be asking yourself these questions at a fairly early age, right? Ideally, if you haven't been prompted by people around you, I would encourage you to get started or encourage others to get started as early as like sixth, seventh grade. I think as early as then, you could actually do a lot of this reflecting and then continue that process. And your answers to this stuff will probably change. And this is why people change activities and so on, which is completely understandable. Okay. So what kind of reflections am I suggesting that you do? Okay. Before you figure out what specific activity you want to do, you're going to have to first start with yourself. You need to first start with who you are, what you're about. Okay. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, what actually matters to me? And this is actually a very difficult question. But if you sit with yourself long enough and reflect on your life experience, then the answers should slowly start surfacing to the top, right? What matters to me is a very broad question. If it helps, you could think of it as what moves me, right? Whether emotionally or what moves me, motivates me to act, what gets me excited, what brings me joy, what would I do if I just had all the time in the world and I could do whatever I want to. Okay. Now, here we already run into problem one. Okay. What do I mean by that? What if what matters to you is playing video games and watching YouTube videos all day, right? Or TV, like Netflix all day. If that's what matters to you, right? That's what matters to you. I think the work shouldn't be, let's try to cover it up and not let colleges know. The question you should ask yourself is, why does this matter so much to me? Why does it matter so much to me that I get 3 hours of video game time a day? Right? It could be for a good reason. I'm not going to lie, right? It could be that in like gaming scenarios, you are engaging with people from around the world and you find the conversations while you're, playing these games just interesting. You've developed friendships over it, right? There's something meaningful for you, and that's great. Other times, it could be an escape from reality. It could be like, oh, my man, my life sucks. I'm just having a horrible day. And the way to zone that out is by playing video games. Okay. The why here matters more than the what, right? What matters to you doesn't matter as much as why it matters to you. And that's really what you need to get at. Why does it matter to you? Because it's going to help you address what is really at the heart of why it is that you're drawn to the things that you're drawn to. That's the question you're going to have to be able to answer. All right. So, look, if you play video games all day, that's fine. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's fine. I mean, you need to worry about academics and other things, but, right. If you're playing a lot of video games, the question you should ask is not like, oh man, I play a lot of video games. It should be, why do I play a lot of video games? What is it doing for me? Why does it matter to me? Right? The why it matters to me could help open up doors for figuring out other things that actually matter to you. Because what I'm guessing is that whatever is underlying the reason for doing what you're doing already, right? What excites you, what gets you going, right? Whatever that is, it's transferable to other activities. It doesn't have to necessarily be video games. This is just how people are wired, right? It's like there's something about an activity that is meaningful, and it might be the activity that is really, really, really exciting. But why it is so exciting for you, the deeper question should help you see that it could be other activities as well. All right. But the first step is to figure out what that is. All right. So I would begin from a place of no judgment. It should just be an exploratory exercise of trying to figure out, like, look, this is what matters to me. This is what moves me. This is where my passions and interests lie. And this is why. The why here is going to be important for you to figure out, right? Why does this matter to me? Okay. All right. Once you figured out that, right? Once you figured out, look, what are these things that really drive me, right? The second question to ask then is, how do I then fit into this larger world, right? Given my interests, right? Given what it is that drives me, what I'm about, right? It could be helping other people. It could be, new technological innovations. It could be working in teams, right? Group activities, right, of some kind. Like relationships matter a lot to you. It could be like, doing something fun with physically, like with your body, like dancing or sports or something, right? Whatever it is that matters to you, right? And whatever the reason for it mattering to you, the next question you need to ask is, how does my being this way, how does that fit into the larger world around me, right? What is my role? What is my place in this larger world, right? And the reason I like to start off with these two questions is the following, okay? If it's something that really matters to you, you will be motivated to be better at it, right? So you will get better at, I mean, I honestly believe that in most things in life, there might be certain things that you just, happen to be, to catch on to easily, right? But I think with most things in life, what we've learned about people is that they're able to learn. And what motivates people to learn is that they need that spark, right? It needs to overlap with something that actually gives them life, gives them that energy from within, right? To activate them, right? So if you find what matters to you, you will invest the time and energy to get better at it. Okay. But here's the thing, like just because you like something and you get really good at it doesn't mean it's actually contributing to anything in both yourself and in the world. You need to then ask yourself, like, what does that have to do with my part in the larger world around me? And it doesn't have to be again, a global community. It could be a very local one. It could be within the family. It could be within a group of friends, right? But the point is this, right? You got to start asking yourself, how do I fit into this world given that this is what I'm really about, right? If this is what matters to me, what does that say about the role I should play in the larger world? And again, here I don't want you to, focus too hard on or at all, honestly, on what colleges are looking for and whether it's a leadership position or anything, right? Okay. I want you to just think like, look, where is my place in the larger world? Okay. And then once you do that, you have a sense of like, oh, this is a kind of, place that this is a kind of role that makes sense for me, right? Then the next question becomes, look, what specific activities fit in with what matters to me and also how I fit into this larger world, right? What kind of activities would make sense? Notice up to this point, I haven't been pointing out any objectively like better activities or not. I've only been pointing to good fits for you, whatever it is, whatever that is for you, right? So, what is an actual good fit for you? And this is, I think, where a lot of students kind of get tripped up because there's so much emphasis on needing to be a leader, needing to win awards, and yada, 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 that I think a lot of students start to think like, look, I need to have an activity that I really like, I'm passionate about. Okay, I got it. I'm going to work hard at it. I'm going to get good at it. And then I'm going to be a leader in it by becoming the president of a club. Okay. And this is not what I'm telling you. Actually, I'm telling you something very, very different. I'm telling you, you got to ask yourself, what's a good fit for you? What's the specific set of activities, right? Roles within the larger community that make sense for you and that might not be a leader in any traditional sense, right? Let me give you some examples, right? I've worked with students who are extremely team oriented, right? They do not need to receive credit. They do not need to be the figurehead or spearhead anything. They do not need to be the one to, necessarily start something, but they are very good and they very much enjoy, right? Being able to bring people together to accomplish goals. They are the glue to a society, right? Like they're to a community. Like they're the glue. They're the one, they're like the focal point that is able to get other people around them. So they're not the ones who are delegating work at all, right? Their role in their community is to bring people together so that they are working together for a common goal, right? And they're not necessarily the ones who have, started a project. They're just the ones that do a critical job in making sure that project comes to completion. All right. That's what they're good at. That's what they love doing. They love, being able to work behind the scenes and then seeing things come together so that, you know, they're able to finish their, collective goal. Others, right, might be, the kind of person who, needs to, work alone, right? They're not the kind of person who works well in teams. They like to be left alone to they love exercising creativity and have a hard time if they have to collaborate with other people. It could be really difficult. So they understand this about themselves and they understand the need to collaborate sometimes. And so they will sometimes do collaborating, but majority of the time they'll spend on their own, exercising their own creativity, right? And understand that that's the kind of activity that works best for them, right? They're not very good at working collectively as a team, right? Some people are just better at delegating. Maybe they're a big picture kind of person and they enjoy delegating, right? So right here, when people are starting to talk about like leadership and like having like, roles and things like that, you have a title associated with it. Okay. The title will come, but the right title will only come if you actually take a moment to think about what actually fits your sort of given skill set and your passions and how that fits in with the particular activity that you're considering. Okay. So it's something to really kind of take a moment to reflect on and take note of. Next, I think, look, whatever the activity is, you want to always bring it back to this bigger question of how do I fit into this larger world, right? And it also means that you need to kind of bring it back to how it fits in with your specific larger world, right? What I mean by that is, before I said like, look, how do you fit into this larger world as in part of your community or in your family or in the world? But there's a separate question of, look, you're doing all these activities, you're good at it and you enjoy it, right? This is the kind of person you are, you've demonstrated it in the kind of activities you do, okay? But again, if colleges are looking for people who are thoughtful in what they're doing, you're not just doing these activities mindlessly. You're not just joining stuff because somebody told you you would be good at it, or you're just not following the crowd and just doing whatever, right? What you should be doing is you should be doing these activities with a kind of thoughtfulness about the bigger picture for you. What do I mean by that? I'm talking about your school, educational goals, your career goals, right? Your personal goals. Does the activity have something to do with the kind of person that you want to be, right? Does it have something to do with like what kind of career you want to eventually build? Does it have to do with any skill set that you're wanting to employ later on in life, right? Some people are family people and they're like, look, all this stuff about career and school and all that, this all well and good, and I want to make an impact on my community, but I'm so big on family that that's where I always want to start. And so a lot of these activities, I'm thinking with the bigger picture of what, how can I be the best kind of parent going forward, right? And or like a best kind of family person and caring for, loved ones, right? And this is the kind of skill set I want to develop, somebody who is reliable in these ways and who has knowledge of certain areas so that they could be a blessing to the people around them, closest to them, right? Whatever that is, like you should have a sense of why you're doing all the things that you're doing, right? That you're not just doing it just to do it because you enjoy it. You're not doing it because you realize that it's a good fit for you. You're not just doing it because you could see that it does something, you're playing a part in this larger world, but you're doing it for yourself as well. You're doing it for yourself. Okay. This is not to be confused with being selfish and thinking about yourself only, or self-interested and being only thinking about yourself, right? This means that when you do the things that you do, you're just not doing it without some clear directions, right? Like for yourself, you're giving yourself a clear path for the kind of direction you want to go. Okay. Okay. Next thing, again, these all kind of blend in together because look, if you're being that kind of a thoughtful person that's thinking about the bigger picture of, what kind of person you're trying to be, or what kind of career you're trying to build for yourself, or what kind of skill sets you're trying to build given the kind of person that you are, right? It should follow naturally that you are reflecting on whether or not you're actually making an impact, right? Why does this matter? Look, if you are doing a bunch of stuff for the sake of others, but you're not actually helping them, right? That's a problem, right? This is like honestly, like it's maybe a little too personal, right? But like sometimes my mom is like this. She'll come over to my place and then she'll try to help out. She's trying to clean and all this, and she's doing it in all these ways that I'm like, oh my goodness, you're actually making things worse, and I have to go ahead and clean this stuff again. And in fact, it's going to be harder to clean now that you just did it in all the worst ways, right? Okay, like look, this is what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that whatever it is you're doing actually has an impact, right? Because that's at the end of the day, why are you doing it if you're not actually trying to make any sort of difference, right? If you're wanting to care for the people around you, who cares how hard you try and that you love doing it if you're doing it in all the ways that doesn't actually help them, right? What does it matter if you're wanting to start a business, you have a real deep passion for it, you're very good at what you do, but at the same time, all your businesses just end up in bankruptcy, right? What does it matter if you want to, do all this sort of research and you really have a passion for it, you're committed to it, but then at the end of the day, right, you can't show any results for all the work that you did, right? So this is not to say that you have to, for instance, you have to be successful at everything you do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, are you the kind of person that is reflecting on the process, that is reviewing, is self-critical, is, taking the time to ask yourself, is what I'm doing effective? And if it's not, can I do it differently? Or even if there is a way that is effective, right? You're accomplishing your goals. You might be asking yourself, look, but is there a better way? But is there a better way? If those questions spark you to change up some of the things that you do from within an organization or to choose to work outside of an organization and do your own thing, so be it, right? But you're not doing it mindlessly. You're doing it with great thought. You're doing it with great sort of clarity in what it is you're trying to achieve and why it is that you think that this different direction is the way to go, right? It's not some impulsive, thoughtless thing you're doing, okay? And finally, again, if you're looking for somebody who's reliable, somebody you know will commit and follow through, okay, then with all of these activities, then the question becomes like, hey, am I really dedicating myself to this activity? And what I mean by that is not necessarily, am I doing all the checklist stuff I need to do to say that I am doing this activity? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, how is it that you're divvying up your time and energy? All right. Are you really committed to this thing? Because if I am looking at your list of activities and I see that you're doing like 90 million activities that you claim you're all passionate about, you're just not going to have time to commit a lot of time and energy to every single one of them, which tells me you're not really committed to any one, right? It's like in a relationship, right? Like this is why if you're dating like five different people at the same time and you're saying I'm really committed to you, right? I mean, aside from the fact that you're dating five different people, right? Like it's just not enough time and energy to really dedicate yourself to any one person. And so every single one of them gets the short end of the stick, right? If you're saying you're really committed to this thing, then you would show it in your action by dedicating yourself to that thing, to that activity, right? So if you're stretched too thin, right, that's a problem. Okay, that's a problem. And look, now that we see all these like bigger picture questions, then there should be some sort of clarity that comes to you about what kind of activities you really should be committing to and how much, right? So this is where the advice start to make a lot of sense, right? So for instance, I've seen good advice that says, look, are you doing too many activities? Are you like, what does your application show that you're spending like 80 hours a week on activities? Like, look, if you're spending that many hours on activities while also trying to keep up with your schoolwork, you're either sacrificing sleep or you're sacrificing real commitment to any one of these activities. That's a red flag, right? If you're doing a bunch of stuff that doesn't fit in with the bigger picture of the kind of person that you are, right? I mean, one person could have lots of different interests for sure. But if they're all over the place, right? It's just like I'm doing one activity like that has nothing to do with what I'm pursuing educationally. But I also am doing something else that doesn't fit in with any of my career goals, right? Like if there's like a bunch of pieces that just don't fit together, then it makes sense why the questions might arise. Like, look, is this really presenting a cohesive picture of the kind of person that you are? Because it sounds like you're just doing a bunch of stuff. If you were being more thoughtful in your approach to the activities you chose to do, then it would signal a clear picture of what you're really about, how you see yourself in the larger world, where you fit into the larger world, and what sort of activities make sense for you to participate in as part of a larger world, right? Um, and this is also the reason that you might also get a lot of this kind of advice that says, look, if you're like president of a bunch of clubs, at school, and you do some volunteer activities and you play a sport or two, it feels very generic, right? The application feels very generic. In some ways, it would feel generic in part because again you're doing a bunch of activities and you're doing all the things that quote unquote you're supposed to do, but again it's starting to look like you're doing what you're supposed to do, right, as opposed to doing the things that actually matter to you, right? Now I'm not saying that all these activities wouldn't matter to you. It could be that you actually genuinely care about these activities and there's a cohesive story that you can tell, and maybe you could tell that in your personal statement, right? But again, the advice that is being given, I think, kind of in some ways misses the point, right? The advice focuses on the do's and don'ts and doesn't really talk enough about why these are going to be red flags or things that are going to raise questions for the admissions committee. Because what they're looking for is honestly a real human being. A real human being is usually going to be super interested in a smaller subset of things. Okay. And they're going to be super dedicated to those things, but they're not the only things that a person cares about. People care about all kinds of different things, right? People have all kinds of things that might interest them. So, the application should demonstrate something along those lines, right? It should demonstrate that you are really, really dedicated to a few really important things that really, really matter to you, but that you have other areas of interest, and that if you have extra time and you're not sacrificing your dedication to the other things that matter to you, then you pursue the things that really, you're passionate about, right? And I'm guessing that even there's probably a story to tell about why you like to do the things that you like to do. Okay. So, look, what I'm pointing out is the following. All right. People who are telling you on the one end, like, just follow your interests. Okay. I think that's in on the surface as bad advice. And the reason it's bad advice is, look, just doing what you're interested in just sounds like you just do whatever you want to do. And that sounds like a terrible idea. Okay. Why? Because I think it's important to ask yourself. Remember in the beginning, I was giving you these kinds of reflective set of questions of qualities that colleges might be looking for. I think you need to reflect on those questions for yourself, right? And just doing whatever you want to mindlessly is not engaging in that kind of reflection of the kind of person that you are and the kind of person that you want to be, right? What's important is that you do things that make sense for you, right? And part of that is going to be fitting in with your interests. But it needs to be that your interest is reflective of something deeper about you, right? Something deeper about the kind of person that you are, right? There's often here a story that's told, right? An experience that really motivates you. That's usually the case for human beings. We don't just have interests that just come out of nowhere. It comes from somewhere. So look, I'm not saying don't pursue your interests. I'm saying pursue your interests, but do so thoughtfully. Do so purposefully. Do so with the mindset of thinking about the kind of person that you are and how you can continue to grow as the kind of person that you are, right? Don't be somebody other than who you are, right? And so, look, don't just follow your interests mindlessly, but at the same time, don't go down the other end and say, like, oh, yeah, so then I have to I have to make sure that I check all these boxes. I got these leadership positions and so on and so forth, right? Look, you don't need to try to craft anything. If you are genuinely about something, I mean, this is really the tall tale sign, right? If you are genuinely about it, it'll show and the accolades will follow, right? What do I mean by this? Like, look, to give you an example, if you're super passionate about building robots, then build robots to your heart content and do so in a thoughtful way where you are constantly challenging yourself and improving and being a better version of a robot builder. And what you'll find is that you'll naturally see that there are opportunities to engage with other robot builders in competition or in other activities. And those accolades are going to follow because you're going to really be dedicated to the things that you really care about. Okay. If you are constantly trying to be somebody to fit a college application, you're already on the path to continuing to put on a mask of yourself everywhere you go. And at some point, that mask is going to come off. Might as well have it come off early because you're going to be liberated to be the best version of you instead of constantly trying to be what other people are telling you you should be. Okay. The other thing I do want to stress is this. Okay. Especially when it comes to extracurricular activities, one of the things that students tend to do is they start playing the comparison game. Okay. This is toxic. I need everyone to stop doing this. All right. If you are focused on yourself, you will get to the places you need to get to as long as, people around you are opening up these opportunities. And an application is really an opportunity. So, look, if you focus on yourself, you don't have anything to worry about. Do not try to compare yourself to other people's accolades and how good your application looks compared to theirs. Okay. This is not the application committee does not go around comparing and contrasting students' extracurricular activities in this way. Again, I can't stress this enough. What you need to present is a cohesive picture of a real person. And a real person will shine if you are being genuine. And so you need to find a way to learn to be your truest, most authentic self. That's the place to start. So whatever the activity is, right, it doesn't even matter. It could be Pokemon Go for all I care. Pokemon Go, by the way, has a whole, I didn't realize this, but a friend told me, like, Pokemon Go has a whole, society created of Pokemon Go players that, would congregate and, be in chat groups and so on, right? Like, look, if you're organizing these things and that's a leadership, that's demonstrating leadership in a way, right? So look, what I'm pointing out is this, whatever your interests are, right? I think people get too bogged down by the what that they're doing and they're not giving enough thought to the why they're doing it, right? The why they're doing it should be the thing that actually hits a genuine chord with other human beings, right? Whether it's wanting to connect with other people, whether it's wanting to leave the world a better place, where it's a care and concern for animals and trees and ecosystem, whether it's self improvement, development, or it could just be some exciting thing like technology really excites you, or entrepreneurship gets you really excited because you like the challenge of starting up something new. Whatever it is, if you really are about it, it will and should show in your applications. Okay. So stop faking it. Stop trying to rig, or sorry, I should say, trying to game the system in any way, and just be who you actually are. That's all I ask of you. Be who you actually are. All right. And hopefully that gives you the right sort of questions to reflect on instead of focusing so much on the what that a lot of these devices are centered on. Good luck to you. And I hope that you find a wonderful community around you of like minded people, of people who are passionate about the same things, and really enjoy accomplishing wonderful things together.